Hello again, everybody. Andy Kennedy with Sean Callahan. Sean, let's put a bow on Big Ten Football Media Days. Busy couple days here in Indianapolis. I want to start with Nebraska on day 2. Matt Rule, he got a good introduction to the conference. And what was your big takeaway from Coach Rule's initial appearance in his first year with the Huskers?
Well, he's just very comfortable, number one, on the microphone, on the stage. He's been there, done that. So this wasn't necessarily anything new for him, but I think the room was new. But I did find it interesting. He knows a lot of these coaches. Obviously, his connection to Penn State, Greg Schiano was one of his college coaches. He had connections across this league to a lot of different programs. He knew Pat Fitzgerald, the previous Northwestern coach, very well. So there were a lot of things that he shared that I think he's comfortable in this conference.
Yeah, was an assistant coach with Ryan Day. Actually, Michael Locksley, the Maryland head coach, was in his cousin's wedding. He said that Locksley kind of shoveled him beverages or two when he was a 14-year-old kid. Anyways, let's talk about Jeff Sims, because when Matt Rule talked to us on the side, he went 45 minutes, and Jeff Sims, a hot topic. He was one of the 3 Huskers here. And interesting notes coming out of that side session with Coach Rule.
Yeah, I thought Coach Rule, a couple of the roster notes, Marquise Buford, who suffered that really rough injury to end the season, is out for the spring. He's going to be limited, and that's a big note because what's that mean for his season? When's he going to be available? And that has been the message. Evan Cooper, Matt Rule have told me even in the summer, they don't want to rush this guy back. They're going to be very careful because he is, talent-wise, probably the best guy they have on that back end, the most gifted guy they have. So they're going to be cautious. Arik Gilbert, the tight end, the Georgia transfer, still no update on the waiver, and that's kind of what we knew. I think we knew going in. It wasn't like he was going to break that news. It's a process with the NCAA, but he's a pro prospect. I was talking to somebody in the program. There's going to be pro scouts at practice to watch him in August. That's a big month where scouts get around and watch practices to get early scouts. So he's a guy obviously on NFL radars, and we don't even know if he can play this year.
Yeah, it was interesting. He said he just wants the best for Arik Gilbert. And if he doesn't play this year, he said, and he decides to go pro, that's just the way it goes. He just wants to help the young man move forward. Let's talk about helping Jeff Sims and keeping his rushing totals under control. What did you get out of that comment?
I think quality over quantity, and we've seen Nebraska struggle over the last few years running the ball consistently with the tailbacks, so then they had to overuse the quarterback to get those rushing yards. And Adrian Martinez or whoever, Luke McCaffrey, those guys were taking the 3, 4, 5 yard carries, and that's just not a sustainable model to win in this conference or a big time conference like the Big Ten. I think they want to be smart, more deliberate when they call those design run plays. There's going to be scramble plays, obviously, on pass plays, but the true design runs, I think there's going to be a plan in place to make sure they make sense for Jeff Sims.
The other 2 players here representing the Huskers, Ethan Piper on the offensive line, which Matt Rule went out of his way to praise about their progress, and Luke Reimer. I think this kid is really on the cusp of having a big year, and quietly he has moved up the all-time tackle charts in Nebraska history. He's poised to be one of the all-timers. Former
walk-on, played 8-man football in Kansas before he went to Lincoln North Star for his junior and senior year when the family moved to Lincoln after his father passed away. So he's been through a lot, making the transition growing up in Kansas to Nebraska. To get to this point, gave up a full ride to South Dakota State to walk on in Nebraska. So this is the ultimate I bet on myself story that's come true, where he gave up the money to come here to play at Nebraska. He's at Big Ten Media Days, and he could be in the record books here at Nebraska, only maybe behind Barrett Root, and it's all said and done.
Yeah, he could finish as high as number 2 on that all-time tackle chart. Okay, a couple more quick hitters. Some construction updates first. Let's hit on the Big Red project.
Yeah, the Go Big project. Obviously not going to be completely done. The training table and these other bigger things, it sounds like those are going to extend all the way until the end of the calendar year. And that's just the world we live in. Anyone that's built a house or been involved with a construction project knows it's been hard to keep things on schedule. But the locker room, the weight room, the recovery areas for the athletes, that's the focus. And I think the hope is at least that locker room will be ready for the players to go into at some point in the month of August. But I think they got to be careful of that. I don't think you want this to be a big distraction. As you're getting ready for football, you're worrying about moving your stuff. So I'm sure they'll have a great plan in place on how to handle that.
And the other issue is the construction or the rebuild of Memorial Stadium. And Trev Alberts gave us an update here on Thursday.
Yeah, we'll find out October 5th at the Board of Regents meeting is when President Ted Carter and Athletic Director Trev Alberts will present their proposed plan to the Regents for Memorial Stadium. They've already been working with an architecture firm and some other partners on kind of developing the plan before the plan, as Trev Alberts said last September when he talked about this process. But it's a big project. It's estimated to be $300 to $500 million to do this right. And what it's going to be. I mean, what can they do that makes sense? And I think the big question a lot of season ticket holders have: are you going to be displaced from your seats? Sure. If you just have to take down South Stadium, that's not going to go back up in a few months. I mean, that's a major project.
Obviously, we will learn more on that in the next couple of weeks and the next couple of months. All right, moving forward as we wrap this thing up, what's ahead in terms of training camp and the practices that will consist of fall camp?
Yeah, Nebraska will start practice Monday. Players move in the dorms on Sunday. So quite the new thing this year. They're going to live in one of the older dorms on campus, Selleck there on the Heart of City campus. Even the coaching staff is going to live in there, and they're going to eat there, meet there. It's going to be a very old school approach, but I think Matt Rule wants to maximize these 2 weeks, because the 2 weeks of training camp, that is the only time as a head coach that you're not constricted to the 20-hour rule in the regular season, and then the off-season hour rules, which is 8. You get unlimited right now, and I think Rule wants to maximize that time with his players, and I think that's going to pay off in the end.
And, of course, it all leads up to the season opener at the end of August at Minnesota.